Are we live? Are we live?
I don't think so.
Of course we are live.
I don't see anything. Are you sure?
I know. I was playing a game. Hello everyone.
Good afternoon.
Back.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Good morning, depending where you are in the world. Here we are with you. Today in the studio, for a change, we have somebody new here with us in the studio. I'm Luca.
I'm Mike.
And this is Mr. Frogfish.
Are you sure it's a mister, not a miss? I think it's a miss.
I don't know, it's got a hole. You know what is this?
The other one is smaller, so this has got to be the female. Come on!
You know what is this? This is a octopus holder.
Really?
Yeah, you see the hole?
It's a very small.
You put the mouthpiece in there. Anyway, I thought that was good time to bring in Mr. Frog.
Put it on the 60-degree angle. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. We don't do ID shots in here. Okay. And how are you, Mike?
I'm good. I'm good.
Happy to be back.
I'm a little more awake in these afternoon ones rather than the morning ones.
Yes, I am actually.
You're always awake, so it
I'm
doesn't
awake.
matter.
I'm a morning person.
You're always awake.
Yes, I'm a morning person. And
you're
very,
an afternoon
excited.
person and an evening person.
So, what we're going to have today in the show?
Very exciting show today. Very exciting. We've got Mr. Alex Mustard, I would say in the studio, but he's not in the studio.
Remotely.
He's remotely in the studio. He's back home, social distancing from us.
And it's going to make it up as a great show.
Yes, we've got him talking about a lot of different stuff.
Yes, and we're going to talk about a lot of... we want to talk about lots of competition.
Yeah, photo competition stuff. So the main subject we'll talk about with Alex is his experience as both an entrant, a competitor, whatever you want to call it,
winner
to different photography shows or photo competitions as a judge and as well as an organizer. He organizes the underwater Photographer of the Year competition every year. One of the best ones that's out there at the moment.
Absolutely.
They just brought out, what's that, in February? That they brought out the results for this last one. So definitely one
of the most challenging, I think, to win. I mean, very prestigious. If you are an underwater photographer and you win that one, it's like you really hit like a big time jackpot.
Yep.
You know,
and a very interesting conversation as well.
Yeah. I would put it, like on the same level as a wildlife photographer of the year. But if you are an underwater photographer, I think I would even leverage a little bit more towards this.
Wow. That's a controversial.
You know why?
Very controversial.
Yeah, I tell you why.
Here,
because
tell us why.
The judges, okay, they are all very experienced underwater photographers. So to impress them and to get away with them, it's much harder. So in the wildlife photographer of the year competition, you have it's a more broad and wide sort of judging panel. So you have birders, you have landscape, natural people, and so on. Now I don't know where I'm going with that, but anyway, that's my point. It's like you're judged only by underwater photographers in the well known. Right. Before we get to that one, we made it a custom.
Have a look at our Facebook.
A little bit of what happened on our Facebook page, because we had another very interesting. Post.
Yes.
The other day, so we asked a question on our Facebook page, and the question was, which one is your animal? Bring up a marine animal starting with the letter.
With the particular letter of
M.
M.
Was M.
M it is.
There it is. Okay. And so you had to post a picture and with something that starts with the letter M. And I'll be honest, with the first time when I've seen this out, I was thinking like, okay, what am I going to put? Yeah, you put the mola mola right there.
Well, actually, no. Miho put that.
Okay. So as an example, yeah. And then I thought, okay, so what is gonna happen? I had a little bit of a blank mind, and then again, our viewers, great, coming in and participating. They came out with many ideas. Mantis shrimp, here from Lenny. Hang on, let me change that because we always do most relevant. But let's change to all the comments. And here we go. So we had Mola Mola, to give an example, over there. Then we had Bartus saying a mermaid. but he didn't back that up with any picture.
Yeah, where's the photo of the mermaid, Mark?
Yeah, there was something here, and then I think somebody like posted. Here you see like a little bit. There he goes, Janet O'Brien. Mermaids are real.
I didn't even see that one.
Very nice. Look at this picture.
Yeah,
fantastic. Let's blow it up. Well done, Janet. That's a beautiful mermaid. And look at the tail.
Yeah, the tail is amazing.
Fantastic work.
They come out with some amazing tails for mermaids now. The whole industry. The price and the work on them is amazing.
And then we had few mantis shrimp. I like the colors that came out in here, Lenny, like all that psychedelic purplish color.
Very purple. And
then this is an oceanic manta from Christopher Penn that correctly calls it the Mobula birostris.
So that is the correct new name.
It changed from manta to Mobula, right? Well done, Christopher. And then another beautiful mantis shrimp, with this time with eggs. We had a mandarin fish. Thanks, Ruth. You were the first chipping in with this picture. We really appreciate that. And then manta again from Janet. Beautiful shot.
I'm not sure if I prefer her mermaid or her manta. I like the sunrise. The silhouette is very nice.
I mean, she caught the moment there. Not an easy shot to take. And then here a beautiful mantis shrimp. Look at that from Nick Moore. Nice.
With eggs.
All eggs, beautiful mantis. And Doug with also looks like an oceanic manta.
Does look like an oceanic, doesn't it?
Yes.
It says...
Rajampa?
He said it was one he was with me on the Demai many years ago.
Okay. Cool.
We had a great trip.
Yeah, mantis shrimps are the winners of a manta. It's manta versus mantis shrimp.
Exactly.
Very nice picture.
Everybody's got eggs.
Yes. Moray. I love this one. I know this moray where it's from. This is from Bali.
Yes. Where in Bali?
Seraya.
There you go.
It's still there. Another moray. And then we got even more into detail. Mototi octopus.
So we got some Latin names coming up. I saw another Latin name as well.
Look at the beautiful blue ring in here. This is not a blue ring. That's a Mototi. Excellent, Doug. And then we got a name with a mimic.
I'm guessing that, well, no.
Mimic octopus.
That could come from here in Bali, or it may come from Lembe. There we go. Lembe, it's on the bottom.
And I like actually to think outside the box over here from Steve, that he came out with...
Steve's watching. He just said hello.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you. Mangrove. Look at that shot. Look at the sunlights coming through. Exactly. So, come with them.
Yep.
It's a marine environment.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
Manta and man.
Nice shot.
2 M's.
Manta and man. The M&M. And I like this one from James Dorward. Melunarus Ras.
Yep. Again, using the Latin name.
I read Latin better than French, apparently.
Evidently. Yeah. You're not very good at French.
Yeah. If you missed my last French pronunciation, go back to the previous live shows and you get a chance to have a few
This
laughs.
one here from Clarence, I got I think
Giant Manta.
I think it's a Mobula.
I thought it was a Mobula too.
I think it's a Mobula
here.
Yeah. Japanese devil ray or a Mobula rather than a Manta.
Hang on. But now the Manta is Mobula, so where are you going with that?
Same thing. And the
mackerel.
It's a good photo too.
Yeah.
Well exposed.
Look here.
Evenly lit.
Dart Manta. This is from Sapporo. And it was great.
Oh, Manta's definitely won this one.
Yeah. I think Manta over Mantis Shrimp won it. And I like that somebody came up with the mermaid, actually.
I think we should come up with on the next one something a little bit more difficult, like X or Z or something.
There are a few. Then, if you go into Latin name, I already thought about some of them. All right, cool. So that was for our Facebook page, guys.
We got quite a few people watching in the live at the moment. We can do a shout out for.
Yes, guys. If you are not following us yet on the Facebook page, please sign up. It's easy.
Leave us a comment.
You just click like and follow us, and you will get notification. We ask questions during the week, and we like to actually bring them up in here because we are finding way more interesting things coming out. Like it's really beautiful to actually see how you are engaging with us, and we love the engagement. Also, if you like this live stream, what would you like to hear from us? We are bringing you up some photography techniques, filmmaking techniques, talking about, we described dive site in Indonesia or other location where we've been working before, like we already talked about the Maldives, Tahiti. We bring in guests, like today in a moment we will have Alex Mustard. And let us know what's your topic of interest. Let's keep it like marine environment, could be also conservation. Let's leave it there into this marine environment or diving or photography underwater. So let us know in the comments, write us a post, and let us know in the comments of these live streams, because we watch them always afterwards again, and we get good ideas. So somebody, was it Nick, I think, asked us to talk about
Nick
Allure.
Talked about Allure.
Exactly, and that was in the plan, and we just pushed that forward, and we discussed about
We take
Allure.
requests.
Exactly.
Well, within reason.
We also live on YouTube, so if you like your experience better on YouTube rather than Facebook, head over to the YouTube channel, and we are there too.
On YouTube, we got a whole bunch of people. We got Christopher Penn, who was just on there.
Andy.
He's watching on YouTube.
We got
Johanny. Mark Thorpe is out there. James Knox.
Excellent.
Whole bunch of people.
It's good to see you over there. Right. So I think I would cut. How do you say? Cut the chase.
Shall we get on with the main show?
Exactly. So, you know which one is my favorite word to say on the show?
Exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
By the end of this live stream and all this...
we're going to cut him cold turkey from that word.
This frogfish will say just one word. Exactly.
We're going to put a little sign here on the frogfish.
Right. So, here we go.
Shall we bring up Alex?
Let's bring up Alex. Here we are.
There's Alex.
All right, guys. Here is our interview with Alex. Let's have a nice...
And we have the frog. All right, guys. Enjoy this part here. And we will answer anything you want to say on the live chat. We'll type it in. Maybe.
Hang on.
Stop.
I'm missing some audio in there. I'm not hearing him. We are still there, guys. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you.
Let me bring that up again. A moment. Hang on. I cut the volume there before. And there we go. Here we have Alex Mustard. Hi, how are you, Alex?
Hi, very well, thanks. It's nice to join you both.
Nice to see you. I haven't seen you probably since, in person. I think the last time was here in Bali, years ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I do hear you guys a lot, though, because I very rarely watch the live feeds. Just from a time thing, but I regularly listen to the audio on my podcast. Generally when I'm like going for a run or something, so I kind of associate both your voices with pain these days as I'm slogging my way along. So.
Keeping you fit, shall we say.
Exactly. And for the people that didn't listen to our podcast yet, please go on our YouTube playlist and listen to the podcast. They're quite fun too. And we wanted to have you here on a podcast, and actually it's great. Now, in this difficult time, it's great that we can have you actually joining us on the show and have a chat, podcast-like with you.
Yeah, I'd rather be in Bali with you, Luca, than here. But yeah, it's not a bad second.
Yeah.
Have you got any plans to come into Indo or did you have any plans to come to Indo this year?
Yeah, I mean, my life has changed a lot since my daughter was born 3 years ago, and the kind of deal I have with my wife is I can travel for work, but I can't travel for fun. So, and the difference between that is if a trip is profitable, it's work. If a trip isn't profitable, it's not work. So the days of coming out and hanging out are kind of gone, and I'm very much go away, do whatever I'm going away to do, come home. So I don't tend to get that opportunity. I am planning to be in Indonesia in October and in December in Lembeh.
Okay.
I'm running workshops there. So, but I haven't booked my flights for the October one. I might come through Bali.
So maybe we need to find out a way to get you over to Bali here.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Well, I hope so that by October everything will be back to if not normal, but at least open and able to go.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean,
exactly.
Well, I know you were just in Cuba a couple weeks ago doing doing an assignment over there. Did you have to go back early, or were you able to finish what you were doing?
No, I was running 2 underwater photography workshops, and some of the people left before me, and kind of when they left, everything seemed very normal. And then within the couple of days before I left, because like I was saying, I try and be away from home the smallest amount of time I can, so I went really late just before the workshop, and the first workshop. And I said to the travel agent, look, things are changing daily at the moment. Mm-hmm. If you need to pull us out, pull us out. I'm kind of super happy to, to be super sensible. And the people that left a couple of days before, that didn't even cross their mind. And the first week was absolutely fine. Everything was fine. And then just about the end of the first week was when Trump stopped all the flights from Europe coming to the States. Yeah. And then things started to feel like, gosh, the world's closing down. We're not in the right place. Yeah. But the airline the advice from them was, we're still flying and we don't want you changing your flight because we don't want queues of people in the airport saying, fly us home early, and then you get this mass gathering of people, which you can't obviously observe the distancing. So we were advised to stick with our original flights. We were told our original flights were staying there. And it was actually, kind of quite nice to be away from it all. We didn't really have much internet connection. It was nice to be away from the news, in a limited group of people. Obviously no one was ill and no one was carrying anything. And just to be enjoying diving and having a break from the stress of all the news. Yeah. So that side was actually quite nice. It was quite stressful from a leader point of view, just worrying what could happen with everyone by the end of the week in terms of flights and getting everyone out of there. But in the end, it all worked fine.
That's good. So there was no major flight interruptions or anything?
No, but it was, 3 or 4 days later, it could have been a very different.
Yeah. We had a lot of that here as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, we actually had a group from the UK was coming over, and I was supposed to go to Raja Ampat with them, and basically they turned around in Dubai because of the situation was changing so rapidly that we didn't know. Like in 2 days, they shut down the entire world, basically. Slowly. Yeah. And then I think that they turned around just on the right time, because then, as you said, we started to have even more congestions of people around in airports and so on, which of course can favor the spreading of this virus. But let's talk about a little bit of underwater photography. And
what for Cuba? Was that your first time?
No, it was actually my 3rd trip to Cuba.
Okay. So you've done the crocodiles before?
Actually, only my 2nd diving trip. Havana is, if either of you have ever been, you'll know, but it is an incredible city to visit. Mm-hmm. There's not another city in the world like that, and you can't ask for more than from any sort of travel destination to be really, really unique. And Havana is just the most phenomenal place to visit.
I guess it's a little time capsule back in time with all the old cars and everything.
Yeah, it's just got its own culture, and it is an incredible place to visit for lots of reasons. So I've been to Havana. I've been to Cuba 3 times. Once only to Havana, and then twice on diving trips. The last time I ran a workshop there, I was actually ill during the workshop, so I missed quite a lot of the diving. I had a really nasty, really weird, nasty illness in the middle of it. Very rarely ill. I was looking at. And so I was quite keen to go back, so I went back to run these two back-to-backs, which I really, really enjoyed.
First time diving with crocodiles this time?
No, I did those last time as well.
Okay.
The area's got quite a large population of crocodiles. There's probably, I think we saw 8 different individuals during the time there. Okay. There's about 3 or 4 of them that are used to being baited in this area where they run the interactions. But they've grown quite a bit since I last went there. And it's not, people kind of go, well, loads of people have been there and it's kind of a safe thing. Yeah. And, they're big and they're bitey animals. And Absolutely. The problem is that once you've been in the water with them a few times, you learn how to really behave with them. And the difficulty is most people that go there get one chance at going in the water with them. And when people first go in with them, it's a very different thing. The crocodiles are very sensitive to sound and vibration in the water. They actually have kind of a little bit like the lateral line of a fish. They can sense vibration in the water, and they have it underneath every single scale in their body. So any movement in the water or shouting above the water. They hear incredibly well.
Okay.
So the way that they actually attract them is not through the smell of the bait. It's actually, they call to the crocodiles, and the crocodiles hear them very easily. And then they slap the bait on the surface of the water. And it's that splashing that actually brings the crocodiles in. So if you have a diver who's not very relaxed and they're flapping about in the water, it's exactly, it creates a lot of kind of white noise for the crocodile, but it can also be an attractant to have a potential incident. So the calmer you stay, the better. And then the crocodiles, unlike sharks, you can kind of put bait down for sharks, and sharks will kind of get on with each other and sort things out. Crocodiles don't like another crocodile being near the bait.
Okay.
And when another crocodile comes into range, they become very aggressive. And at that point, any divers nearby need to give them a lot of space. And the problem is, underwater photographers are like, oh, look, there's 2 crocodiles. This is going to be great. And that's when problems can come.
we're all a bit stupid like that.
You need to learn. And obviously, I've sort of, the guides tell you all this, but photographers are there going, I want my shots. I'm not going to bother listening to the guides. And so it's quite a fun thing to try and run.
Yeah. There is always this thing that if they organize it, it must be safe,
Right.
Yeah. And you're not going to get eaten by the crocodile. They're not going to try and predate you. But if you're splashing about, they could easily think you're the chicken bit, because it's that sound that they're actually really cued into.
And they're not as big, they're not as aggressive as, say, the oceanic or the salties. But how big do these ones get over there?
So the ones that they do the baiting with have been growing, because they're giving them chicken and animals grow anyway. So they're about the same length as us, but kind of not, they're kind of relatively long. The bigger ones that we also saw there were probably a third longer, but a lot more chunky.
Okay.
But they're getting bigger, and at some point they're going to get to the point where, they're really quite serious deal. They're not small at all. They're, 6 foot long, 2 meters long.
Okay.
And, they're pretty chunky things now. So,
intimidating
not to be
enough.
trifled with.
And how would work, let's say, a normal day to go to see the crocodile? How does it work? You leave in the morning, and tell us a little bit the program.
So in Cuba, the area for diving, really amazing area for diving there is the Gardens of the Queen, the Jardín de la Reina. And there, the diving is all very carefully controlled. It's been a marine park for 20 years now, and it was very remote and protected before that. So it's an incredible place to go. But they manage the diving very carefully. They manage the amount of time that you can spend in any one area. So the area is actually divided up into sections. All the operations, although there's several different liverboards, they're all run by one company. So they all obey the rules because they're all one company. And if you go to one part of the area in the morning, you're not allowed back to that part in the afternoon. And there's various rules like that manage the flow. Most of the boats there want to have a crocodile encounter during the week, and there's not a lot of divers there anyway. But they usually go just once, and they usually do it as a between dive activity. So you go out, do a dive, you've got an hour surface interval, you whiz to where the crocodiles are.
Okay, so they're nearby. You don't need to run a full day.
Dive sites.
So it makes it very convenient.
Yeah, but generally most boats only go once during the week, and there can be times they're not on tap. The guys are telling me that they can go 2 or 3 months and the crocodiles just won't be coming in at all.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not guaranteed.
So, but I have to say, every time we went, we had at least 1 or 2 there all the time. We never waited for them. And the problem we had one day was we had 4, and then it became quite angsty. Just the number, that many around. But it was, but we were doing it because we were a photography group. We were doing it instead of a dive. So instead of having that kind of hour and a half surface interval, we had a surface interval, then the kind of 2 hours of dive time as well. And then we tried it both ways with the groups, because I think going there for 2 weeks with my group divided onto 2 boats, I think we went 8 times across the 2 boats. So, we went quite a lot. Sometimes we let everyone go in and people just kind of cooperate with each other underwater. Previously, I'd had everyone in the water but queued up on the boat, and the crop was at one end of the boat, and everyone just kind of had their turn and then came back. And then other times we had a strict, everyone stays on the boat, and only 2 people go in the water at any one time to shoot. And actually, all of them worked, and all of them had pluses and minuses, which is why we did so many. Some people got their best shots when everyone was in the water. Other people got their best shots when it was kind of very limited. It's good fun to do, but we tried it all the ways. I think generally, though, I would recommend everyone stays on the boat, and we did pairs in the water for 10 minutes when the crocodile was just there near the boat.
Yep.
The other thing you have to watch is that it's in a mangrove environment, so you can only, if you want good photos, you want to go in on a relatively high incoming tide, and you need to look after the visibility, right? Because it's a sedimentary seabed. So, and obviously when you're stressed with the crocodile, there are times when you're not thinking about the visibility. So.
And what about the rest of diving there? The good shark diving there as well, no?
So the reefs there have very strong populations of Caribbean reef sharks, and unlike other places I've been in anywhere in the world really, most places around the world you tend to have particular areas on the reef system where there's a lot of sharks, and then dive sites where there's no sharks at all. And what's unusual, I think, about Cuba is just this whole reef system. Every single dive site's got sharks on it. Nice. So every dive you do, the whole trip, you'll see, somewhere between 2 and 5 or 6 reef sharks. And then they do sometimes bring some bait down, and it's nice to do some dives with bait and some without. With the bait dives, you tend to get the sharks more aggregated in a certain area on the site. But because they get bait regularly, they're super friendly, and actually, when you go unbaited, you get the chance to shoot more naturalistic shots, which for me is in a place like that is what I want, because you've got such beautiful reef and such vibrant, fishy Caribbean reef. I don't want to shoot a shark in the blue. Mm-hmm. I want to shoot a beautiful reef with sharks on it, right, and that feeling of natural ecosystem. Because so actually, on both weeks we did some dives with bait, and we could have taken bait more than we did. We don't. They just take a small metal box. It's an attractant bait. It's not a feeding bait.
What are your lenses of choice when you go in a place like this?
I shoot full frame cameras. So I was shooting with fisheye and with the WACP-1, the Nauticam wet wide angle lens. Similar angle to the WWL-1 as well. Mm-hmm. So it's 130 degrees zoom, really nice optics. And that's, for me, a better big animal lens than the fisheye. The fisheye gets a bit distorted.
Right, too wide.
What lens do you put behind there? The 28-70?
Yeah, so you use on a Nikon, which I use a relatively old 28-70. Actually, with that, the way it's designed is actually the simpler the lens behind it, the better the optics work.
Okay.
Because you're kind of using if you ever look at a lens design, the middle part of a normal land lens is quite a simple lens, and then they put other elements on to correct and fix it all up. And that's kind of how the WACP-1 works. You take a relatively simple lens, and then it's relatively easy to put the water correcting, wide angle converting things in front of you. If you have a complex lens, it actually becomes much harder to get all that to work with it. So actually, that's one of the reasons why you use this relatively old lens, and I think it's hard.
Interesting. I always wonder about that.
Yeah.
And we do have it for our red. We use it with the 28-70 old lens from Canon on that, and it works quite well. That also has a macro function and the Canon lens, and you can go all the way in. And I've been shooting gobies with that on. You need to be careful.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, you need to be very careful how close you get, because you can scratch, of course, the element at the front. But it goes all the way in, very much to 70, and so. Plus, it's a crop sensor too. It's a 1.2 times.
Yeah.
I think.
So coming back to Cuba, just to close it off, you would definitely recommend Cuba as a destination. You've been there, let's say, at least 2-3 times now. Definitely a place you'd recommend visiting.
Yeah, it's not the easiest place to go to for some nationalities. The fact that the U.S. administration doesn't like Cuba, which I can understand the historical reasons, but it's a very long time ago. Cuba has nothing. I really don't understand all the politics of why it's such a big deal to them. But one of the problems of that is that the American-controlled banks don't like other banks dealing with Cuba.
Oh.
And so it can make organising trips there really a problem. And actually, what I had with this trip was we planned this trip pre-Trump. We booked people on it, and then when he came in and changed the rules, it actually meant that the people who were already booked were fine, but actually we couldn't accept any new American bookings if people cancelled. So we had this kind of strange situation that, you know, we had Americans on the trip, but new Americans couldn't join.
Yeah.
And it becomes complicated. So it's an easy place to go as an individual. It's not a great place to organize group trips, just because of the fact that US doesn't like Cuba, and just they don't, you know, it just makes it difficult. I think from Indonesia you'd be fine, but I wouldn't.
It looked like it was finally opening up, and then they closed it again.
Yeah, and obviously you go to Havana, it's, you know, it's packed with American tourists, and you're like, this is a ridiculous situation. And, you know, Cuba has, you know, nothing in, you know, in terms of military. You know, it just makes no sense. You know, it's a poor, predominantly agricultural country with a very friendly, very well-educated population, with amazing nature as well. And it's a fantastic place to visit. And Havana, the culture, the beauty of the city is incredible. I'd encourage anyone to go there. Just from, you know, from our perspective as industry folks, it's a tough place to want to organise trips, just because of all these additional hurdles created by the politics.
And well, it will. It's also, when it's hard to get there, it takes longer to sort of develop. So somehow it makes it also a little bit more attractive. So it's very photogenic, as you were saying, like both Havana and underwater, like. You can take pictures on top, and
it won't be ruined as quickly as some other places. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
no, the
unfortunately for them, in somehow, but you know, it's got its advantages.
Yeah, no, the diving area is super remote as well. It's like 7 hour coach journey from Havana into basically the middle of nowhere, then a 5-6 hour boat ride out to this area of diving.
Okay,
and all the diving is
land based or liveaboard.
There's liveaboard. It's predominantly liveaboard, but there's actually we stayed this time at a floating resort, which is basically like a liveaboard that doesn't move.
Okay,
gotcha.
But it's quite, all the dive sites are relatively easy run on a speedboat. So it's we went to the resort because it's got a little bit more space than the liveaboards, and it's got a little bit of internet connection.
All right, cool. So, and how's the food?
The food is fine. But Cuba doesn't, you didn't think it would, but Cuba doesn't have a traditional food culture because of the lack of ingredients there.
Right.
Okay. It was there's nice food. They have, you know, as tourists we ate well, but, you know, generally food is rationed. There's not access to spices. So there's not a big food culture. And I think, you know, once Cubans, for example, that settled in America and things like that, have developed quite a strong food culture. Yeah. But that doesn't really permeate into Cuba that much. No,
okay, good.
There's nice food there, but there's not a strong culture.
Interesting. So what else have you got on tap? Obviously, like everyone else, you are at home at the moment. I guess you're taking this time to do some writing, or you got some assignments you got to catch up on?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, I've obviously been doing normal work, but I think my situation is kind of different to a lot of my friends. A lot of my friends are off work and want to talk to me about their underwater photography. And my work is underwater photography. And we're obviously isolated at home with a 3-year-old. And my wife and I are both trying to work. Plus, we don't have any childcare help or anything. So the maximum we can work is half-time. But actually, when you're confined to your own house and you have to, you know, going out shopping becomes a big thing. Yeah. You need to go out and get some exercise. You need to clean the house all the time, because when you're in your own house all the time with a 3-year-old and a dog, it needs cleaning the whole time. Yeah. And so, you know, actually, I'm probably only working about 30% compared to normal.
Oh, okay.
And I'm very happy not to be traveling. I think as a photographer, you're on the road a lot, and I really, really enjoy and appreciate being at home. And I'm really enjoying spending lots of time with my daughter and painting and doing Play-Doh, and we made cookies the other day, and we're planting plants in the garden, and we're having a great time. My wife and her made a lava lamp the other day. So we're a really good family time. But yeah, my work's suffering a bit. So it's why I'm not, you know, I know lots of photographers are, you know, coming and doing lots of things like this. The ones with kids aren't.
No, I guess not. Yeah.
Kids that can't, you know, need constant entertainment.
And you say, we don't have kids, so we're on here 3 days a week.
That you know about. Come on.
That's true.
Yeah, actually this time gave us a little bit of time to do what we're doing right now.
We're catching up on this stuff that we didn't do before.
Something that we were never consistent enough with all the trips that we were running to come and spend some time in here, and now we are actually finally
doing
having
more
time to do this. And we're enjoying it quite a bit.
One of the questions, one of the things why we were thinking to get you on the show was a little bit last week we were talking about some of the winners of an underwater photo competition. You are a quite a well-known and frequent judge of different kind of photo competitions, whether it be BBC Wildlife, whether it be Underwater Photography Year, lots of different ones that you're involved with all the time. We wanted to sort of pick your brain a little bit about some of the things that you take into consideration when judging a photo competition.
Yeah, it's a subject I'm very happy to speak about. I think one of the things that's slightly different about me compared to a lot of the judges is that I still enter photographic competitions.
Okay.
And so I've always, with Underwater Photographer of the Year, which is obviously the competition that I was a big part of setting up, and I really wanted to do all the things in that competition that I wanted as an entrant. So we've always tried to be as open and transparent about the judging process as we possibly can be, because I think that as an entrant, that's always what I wanted. And so that's driven so many of the decisions in that competition is trying to get those things right. So I'm and I've obviously, having done a lot of it, and actually one thing, down the years, I, have judged most of the big underwater competitions that are out there, over the last 20 years. I've judged most of the major wildlife photography competitions as well. And having done all that, I've seen the things I like, the things I don't like. But I wish there was, I think across the board, I wish there was more transparency. Mm-hmm. I think every competition that's out there, the first thing they tell you is who the judges are, and then they tell you about the prizes to get you to enter. And I think one thing that a lot of them are not doing is that a lot of the time, named judges don't do the bulk of the judging. They choose the winners, but the organisers create the finalist group. So say a competition gets 1,000 entries, the judges often only get to see 30 to 50 pictures.
Right.
Because, the organisers are kind of saying, well, these busy guys, we can't email them 1,000 pictures and tell them to pick their favourites. So we'll do that for them. I don't have a big problem with that, but I think the competition should be more open. They should say, the team here will judge the first round, because a lot of these contests are saying, we want you to pay $10 a picture, and the reason you're entering our competition is because of these big name photographers who are going to be looking at your work, and then they don't see it, and it actually puts people like me in an awkward situation, because I get people emailing me going, hey, I entered this amazing shot in the contest, and what did you think of it? And I'm like, I never saw it, because it was out before me. And so I don't have a problem with competitions doing it like that, but I think they should be more open, especially when they're charging money to enter.
Yeah.
I also, from a personal point of view, it's quite widespread. And so with UPY and the other big competitions, like the Wildlife Photographer, with UPY anyway, which is the one I can talk about most openly, all the named judges see every single picture, and we see every single picture together. So no sitting on your own in a dark room, half asleep, just going delete, delete, delete. We all go through and I would happily record our judging process and put the whole thing online, except that it's, it takes 36 hours or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's a very long process.
But we would, there's nothing that we say or do that we would want behind closed doors. It's just, and we did record it the first year, actually. I know, just like we can't show it, it's just boring. It's just us staring at it and going, But it's, and I think the other thing as well is that I think across the board, I've always, with UPY, paid all the judges for their judging time. And I think that all these competitions, and, to say this to you as industry pros, we as pros who are asked to judge things, we should ask to get paid for judging competitions. It's a considerable drain on time. These competitions are using our names to gain entries and generate their income. And I think if you actually paid judges, they'd put more effort into it. I think one of the problems is you ask these people to do it, they go, yeah, I'll do it. And then you send them an email saying, okay, here's the top 50, choose your favorites. And they're like, I'm busy, I've got this deadline, I'm about to go away on a trip.
So they might do that quick.
Done, yeah. And I think if you pay people, you'd actually get them to sit down and go, okay, I'll happily look at the top 500 pictures because you're paying me, a couple of $100, and I know it's not, I'm obviously going to spend a few hours on this, and my hour rate is more than that, but I appreciate the gesture.
Right.
And I think that would be a much better system to have.
I have a question
and that's
about on the judge criteria. Do you also put in the judging panel maybe somebody that is not an underwater photographer?
It varies competition to competition, and I think what is important is you tell ahead of time the entrance what the panel is going to be like, and some panels can be dominated by editors, some panels can be dominated by photographers. I personally think that underwater photographers are happiest with the results when the panel is dominated by photographers.
Yes.
But what you don't want is you don't want photographers that are all clones of each other, or you have one very well-known photographer and a load of yes men or yes women.
Okay.
You need photographers that will
challenge each other.
Have different opinions, will fight their corners, but are not. I think one of the biggest problems you see on judging panels is photographers that are not willing to compromise. And I think most photographers, we work on our own, and all our decisions about our photography are ours. We're our own boss. We're like, I want it to look like this. This is what's great. And what you find with a lot of good photographers when you get them on a judging panel is they're so set in their way of doing things. They're like, this is right, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why we have what seems from the outside a very undiverse judging panel with UPY. We have just 3 judges. We're all British, we're all male, we're all white. You think, but myself, Martin Edge and Peter Owens, I think is the best judging panel I've ever judged with. And it's why I want to keep it that way for so long, because we have completely different taste in images. We're all known well in the community, so people want our opinions, but that's a lesser point. But because we all respect each other, we all really listen to each other. And the UPY collection is in no way the result of any one of us. It's always the result of the 3 of us. Mm-hmm. And there are winners every year that I really just don't get, but Martin or Peter absolutely adores, and that's fine. And we listen to each other, we talk each other around, and it's that which I think creates a really great collection. When you have, strong minds, different tastes, and then that ability to talk to each other and listen to each other. And so many big name photographers I've judged with can't listen.
You mentioned something there. You mentioned something there that all of you are you have different likes in photography. Can you explain a little bit this? What you like, what Martin H likes, and
yeah, I would say. I mean, it varies a little bit. I would say I'm the most consistent judge of the 3 of them, probably because I'm the most immersed in active underwater photography. So I know all the up-to-date trends. I know all the techniques. I would say 99.9% of pictures in UPY, I see them, I know exactly how they're taken. Mm-hmm. And you guys were talking to Joe the other week about how his shot was, I see that shot, I know exactly how he's taken it. Just because I'm teaching techniques, I'm, doing underwater photography. Martin and Peter generally don't. So they react much more artistically than me. Okay. They're just like, I like that, I don't like it. Martin is a very artistic guy. Although he writes technical books on how to take underwater photos, he's a really artistically tuned in. And, if pictures hit him in the heart, he loves them. And so, whereas I'm very much more, if it's in the head. And then Peter's, got a great deal of expertise, probably sees lots and lots of pictures, has his favorites, of course. But I'd say the 2 of them are much more changeable. For me, if you showed me the winners if you showed me the entry from the first year we ran UPY, I'd pick all the same pictures now that I picked then. Whereas the 2 of them really change a lot. They're just like, yeah, this is what I love today. And I think that's really, although it sounds like a bad thing, it's actually really important because they're just reacting emotionally to what they're seeing.
And that's great. Otherwise, we might figure it out your minds and we know exactly what you like every time. So.
Yeah, and the way we judge is, I would say that those 2 speak more than me, but I control the mouse. So I do the computer side of it and move things. So I make sure, for me, my goal with UPY is that it's a collection of images that that the community really wants to see every single one. Because, so we definitely want diversity within our awarded images. So that's going to affect, if you have two amazing pictures, but they're quite similar, probably we won't award one of them, certainly in the same category, So I like to take care of that side of things, and I just let those two run with it. And it's really enjoyable. But I have to say, judging competitions is also very stressful. And I think it's something that people maybe don't see from the outside is no one is judged as harshly as the judges. Everyone has an opinion on the winners of every competition. And you're very aware, about making mistakes, that you could award a picture that breaks a rule, that is taken in a way that, obviously all around the world, new subjects, new things come up. You don't know whether that way of posing that animal in this way is if it's something completely new. Now, I've done enough diving, and I'm pretty clued up to have a pretty good idea. And every year we exclude a huge number of pictures because we think it's either manipulated or we don't want to promote that type of picture because it could lead others to manipulate it in order to reproduce it.
Okay. Right. That's a very good takeaway, actually, from just what you said. If somebody wants to enter a competition, even if you got that shot that you think like it was natural, but if it gives that impression that maybe could be manipulated into that, don't put that image through because it could get rejected.
Yeah, so we're always really careful in that. That said, a lot of the pictures you get entered in competitions are people's most amazing thing they've seen. So, of course, you get to... And you guys, all the diving you've done, you've seen some things you're like, if I saw a photo of that, I'd say it's manipulated, but actually it was happening completely naturally. And there's a photo that I often talk about when we're judging and we're having these long debates. I think it's taken by a guy called Dragos, and it's a sand perch sitting on top of a blue ring octopus. And obviously, you can't manipulate that because of the nature of the subject.
Yeah.
But if that was a nudibranch on top of a frogfish, you'd immediately say manipulated.
Right.
That's right.
So amazing things can happen. And I think you have to have a little bit of understanding that just because something is not something you haven't seen doesn't mean it's manipulated. Mm-mm. But at the same time, our driving force is we don't promote that. All that said, I would say 3 years ago in the contest, we were getting a lot of manipulated pictures. And that number has, obviously manipulated pictures, that number has really nosedived. And now I would say we get far, far less. However, I actually think that there's still a lot of manipulation going on out there, but the photographers or the guides and photographers working together are manipulating in a way that creates a naturalistic looking image.
Right.
So, I go diving, I see, what goes on. Not, we talk to our guides and they behave brilliantly, but I know that those same guides, when they're with another photographer, will do what the photographer asks them to do. And, you swim, on the dive sites, they're busy. You see other photographers working. There's lots of manipulation going on, but these days it's not, okay, we'll grab that subject and put it on top of this and it will look great. It's now, we'll grab that subject and we know that it sometimes lives on this, so we'll put it on that in a nice place.
Yeah.
And then you end up with a picture that, as a judge, well, that animal lives with that subject, or that nudibranch feeds on that type, that Nembrotha feeds on that type of tunicate. So, yeah, it could be on there.
Right.
But, so I think there's probably still manipulation going on, but it's at a level that in the judging room you can't pick up on.
Yeah, it's a little bit grayer.
Clever manipulation.
But I guess at least that then doesn't spawn copycat type stuff because it's actually reasonably natural. And it doesn't.
One thing you mentioned earlier, you were talking about how you being on top a little bit more about the latest trends and that kind of thing, and talking about the manipulation. You'll see on social media when there's an obvious manipulated subject or a photo that's been out there, say, there's several examples over the recent years of, say, the shrimp in between the rhinophores of a nudie or something like that, and it creates a big blowback. And that's what you're alluding to now. You don't want to put that in the forefront on your judging. But how much, if you're really aware of that, how much are both Peter and Martin, if they're not as into the social media side of things, are they also aware of that issue? Yeah,
I'd say Peter's very careful about that. Martin doesn't come into he's technical, but he's very much it's about the image. Martin's a real details guy as well with images. It can be an amazing shot, and there might be a detail in it that will just make him hate it, or a detail in it that will make him love it.
Right.
But it's we all have quite overlapping tastes as well as being diverse. But obviously I'm diving a lot more than those guys. I've dived all around the world more recently than those guys generally, and my background is a marine biologist, so they tend to defer to me. We do still email the odd person outside. We've got some good contacts that were like, what do you think about this? And we'll send it out to some scientists, friends of ours who are photographers, and get a little bit of extra feedback. I don't think we basically take the attitude that if this is not the sort of picture we want to promote, we'll kick it out. And then we don't have to have a long debate about whether it was manipulated or not.
Right.
We just say, it's not the picture, move on. Yeah.
Makes sense.
But it's, you're not infallible, but I think it's something that as a judge, and it's not just that, it's also technique-wise, you might fall in love with a picture and then later on find out that actually this is something that is being set up and staged and loads of people have done it and you've just not seen it before or something. So there's elements that we want to... and I think the other thing I'd say is we are quite keen to show the diversity of underwater photography in a way that not everyone appreciates. It's not a nature photography competition. We like pictures of people in, we like shipwreck, we have a shipwreck category. And I think that's important, is to remind people that underwater photography is more than just who can find the coolest critter or who's got the nicest blackwater shot. There's people doing cool stuff in swimming pools, in freshwater rivers, all around. And I think that's something we really, working with weird, we had really cool bear shots a few years ago, and we really like that underwater photography is more than just going on a scuba dive and shooting fish.
Gotcha.
Although most of our winners are in that category, we like that variety.
How much do trends? Again, coming back to the three of you,
it's a really good question.
Trends seem to be, you'll get 2 or 3 years in a row where you've got this one sort of trendy photo that a few years ago it was snooting. Now it's blur and things like that, where you get a trend that keeps coming along. You, as you say, you're on top of the social media and looking a little bit more at the current trends that people are doing and teaching some of them and things like that. The other two maybe not as much as yourself. How much do trends have an impact on the judging panel?
So I would say that in UPY terms, Martin and Peter couldn't give a toss about trends at all. And for them, it's all about the image. Right. They love the image, they love it, whether it's fancy, whether it's normal, and we always award plenty of classic shots. I would say in terms of the entrance, yes, you clearly see trends massively in the entrance. I think what most people would be shocked about if they actually saw all the entry was how the cutting edge trends are incredibly widespread. Because there might be 1 or 2 guys posting those pictures on Facebook who they know. So they're like, oh yeah, just a couple of guys are doing that. And actually when you get the entry to UPY, you realize that most photographers are doing it and they're all entering it into the competition. And someone say, oh, that person's really well known for like snooty blur shot or something. And then actually come the competition, you find out there's 30 or 40 photographers doing it and they're all entering 2 pictures. Suddenly there's 90 of them.
Yep.
We joke, with Blackwater is, people think, oh, there's only a few people doing it. We have so many Blackwater shots. We're joking that, they call it a blanket octopus because it sends the judges to sleep and we need to snuggle up with the blanket. And it's not because blanket octopuses are common and they're beautiful and amazing animals, but everyone who shoots one enters it in the competition. Yes. And suddenly you get your finalists, in macro or Blackwater category, and there's like 50 or 60 of them, and you're just like, oh my God, they're all the same. They all look the same. There's so many of them. And I think actually the best advice I can give anyone with a competition is enter what you have that other people don't have. And remember that people are all going to enter their, what they think is trendy or they've just got. And actually, I think you can have a lot of success by finding pictures that you have that are perhaps a little bit different.
Yeah.
And, the number of people who think they're doing something different and actually they'd be amazed how many other people are doing exactly that same different thing.
Okay.
And then actually the other guy, you know, like our winning macro shot this year, I mean, last year, all our winning macro shots were for Asia. But this year, our winning macro shot was a Caribbean shot.
Right.
And, you know, and second place, I think, was from Japan. And, you know, so it's, you know, how do you, you know, finding something slightly different, something original, rather than, you know, and we had, you know, a huge number of amazing Asian blackwater pictures. And UPY, we don't have a raw check thing, which makes it a lot easier for blackwater people who diving in less good visibility. You don't have to go to French Polynesia to get clear water because you know have no backscatter. And I think, you know, so we have amazing blackwater stuff, but it's all quite samey.
Yep.
You know, when you see, you know, it's amazing until you have 500 of them on your desktop, and then they become quite samey. And you know, obviously
so the competition amongst those shots, so the bar gets set very, very high. So if you want to win the blackwater night dive shot, you need to have that really fantastic, amazing shot that can impress all the 3 judges in UPI. Why, like, yes, that's a fantastic shot, which is very difficult to do that. But when you have that that different shot, it comes in as a, let's say, a breath of fresh air, right? After you see so many blackwater and so on, and it can capture your attention more than actually the more trendy shot technique.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, it's just a human nature thing in that if you see, I mean, like 500 of anything and one thing stands out, you know, so, you know, like if you know, a beautiful blonde girl in Sweden is not going to stand out. You know, you could come to Bali and she stands out, whereas you take a Balinese girl to Sweden, she's going to really stand out and look amazing. You know, no. So it's a competition. You're competing with the other images in there, and as an entrant, you should think a little bit about that. What is everyone else going to put in? Because if you're putting in something similar to them, you're less likely to stand out. Now, of course, we still award, you know, amazing blackwater shots, but it's perhaps harder to win with one of those than it is with someone who's maybe doing their own thing. And if you're shooting what the dive guide tells you to shoot all the time, you're probably doing the same thing as everyone else. But it's ultimately, we just want to choose the best pictures. We don't put that much thought into it, but I think you can think about how the judges might be thinking about things if they're trying to choose the pictures that are most outstanding, most remarkable.
What about something like between, say, setting up something that's technically difficult, spending a lot of time getting, like, say something, for instance, one of your winning shots from a few years ago, where it was a nighttime shot where you had the jack creating those trails. I believe it was the European Photographer of the Year competition where you won something like that. So that is a technical setup that took a lot of time to get it right. So you look at a picture like that, or you look at something that's just specifically someone at the right place at the right time caught an amazing bit of behavior of an animal eating something or spawning or you know, pygmy seahorse putting out little babies, pygmy seahorses, and things like that. Which would have a greater impact on your scoring as a judging?
So I think we would never go into UPY saying we want one over the other. It's very much about reacting to them as images. And I would say, and it's not about deconstructing how they were made or the effort involved in taking them, because, you know, you don't always know that. And I think you judge them within their genres. So you'd say, is that the most amazing technological step forward in rec photography? Or, you know, if it's a really, you know, complicated, particularly the rec photography is doing a lot with off-camera lighting and really complicated shots, often in very deep water, you know, doing some amazing stuff. Or is that behavior shot really incredible because maybe that photographer has put in huge hours underwater to get that moment? Or they were just lucky, you know, which is also part of it. All those things deserve merit, but I think you judge each within its genre. So is that the most amazing step forward in rec photography, or is that the most amazing step forward in behavior photography? Is how you sort of weigh them up perhaps against each other, which one is pushing the genre on. But we'd obviously want both in our winning circle.
Of course.
I think in terms of technical innovation and pushing things on, definitely judges like to be able to because when you're judging and choosing winners, you do feel that pressure. Is this the right winner? Because, I think the thing I haven't made clear is that, UPY, we got 5,500 entries this year. Most of our entrants are really good photographers, So I would say 5,000 plus of those 5,500 are the best pictures of the best photographers. So there's no dummy pictures. So you could, really put any of those together and it would be a collection worth seeing. Mm-hmm. So you're looking for small details, and it's actually a very heartbreaking process. As photos that you absolutely love and you would have given anything to have taken yourself, you have to not award because there's just not space. But I do think as a judge, when it comes to trying to pick the right one, it's quite nice to say that's really a technical innovation. When someone's gone that extra mile with a technique, it helps reassure that you've made a good choice. But it absolutely has to work visually. The technique that Joe used for his shot, just come back to that, the first time we ever saw that technique, I think the first time anyone used it, to our knowledge, was an Italian photographer called Davide Lopresti, who won overall UPY probably 4 years ago now with it.
Right, yeah, I remember.
Seahorse shot in the Mediterranean. And that was the first snoop panning shot that I'd seen. And it, but it also worked visually. The color balance between the yellow seahorse and the blue of the water was beautiful. It was a great problem solver because it helped pull out this really beautiful subject from a relatively messy background. It visually had a lovely feeling of this seahorse moving through the weeds. It worked on all those levels, and those were more important than it was a new technique. But the fact it was a new technique also was nice as a judge to say, this is our overall winner. It looks amazing. It's graphic. It's innovative. There's a lovely narrative that works with the visual side of it. And we can also say, this is the first time we've seen this technique. That's a winner for us. Yeah. So yes, it comes into part of it, but I think it has to work visually first. And if it doesn't work visually, it just goes out in the first round. It's like there's there's 1,000 shots here that look amazing. If it doesn't look amazing, it's not going anywhere.
Yep.
So Alex, you've been bringing in throughout your underwater photography career lots of different techniques. At your early stage, where have you been looking for inspiration to bring your photography to the next level?
I would say the answer to that is everywhere. I think that one of the best things you can do as an underwater photographer is to look at lots of underwater pictures, because I think that, first of all, that builds up a bank of, when you see a subject, you go, oh, I know what I can do with this subject, because I've seen, behind you guys there's a great manta shot coming onto the camera. That's a great angle. Okay, that's in my, next time I see a manta, I'm going to maybe try and get into that position or whatever. But I think in terms of innovation, you want to look outside your own area of art. So, and you can, for me, I would say the area I've got the most inspiration from is other nature photography outside of underwater photography. So looking at that, just seeing techniques and trends. One of the trends that I brought into underwater photography that's kind of gone off in a slightly different direction now was playing around with the out of focus bokeh lights in the background. But I wanted to do that shot with natural background, I'm not a big fan of artificial elements in the pictures. And so actually the way I did that was I knew I had to shoot open aperture. The best background I was going to get was the sun on the surface of a macro shot. And I had to use a housed flash to allow myself to use a shutter speed of 1,000, I think it was 2,000ths of a second, and still be able to sync, because with a land flash in a housing, you can do that high speed flash. And I created some shots like that. And then people have sort of taken that visual idea and done it a lot in the last few years with backgrounds. But that idea came from seeing land photographers shooting flowers, shooting birds against water, and having the sun playing on the water. And, so that was very much influenced from that idea, and going, I can take that idea and try it underwater. And then I had to come up with ways to figure out how to do it. And actually the way I figured out isn't the best way to do it. I now shoot those shots by using neutral density filters, which are a lot cheaper than housing a land flash. Right. I didn't really think that at the time. So ideas, come from those areas. I think, but it's also really important just to be open to ideas. But for me, there needs to be, it's not just about creating a gimmick shot. I want a reason why I want. So the picture has to work visually, but there has to be a narrative reason. I don't want it just to look fancy. I want the fanciness in the picture to reinforce the message that I'm trying to say about the subject in terms of the shot. So, for example, I did a lot of early work with remote flashes on shipwrecks. And that was driven, yes, because it looked fancy, but it was actually about opening up space and creating atmosphere and that spooky feeling inside a wreck, while at the same time having color and contrast and detail to really be able to tell a story in the picture. So those aspects, and that led me to do a lot of work developing flash triggers and things like that. But I would say, from my perspective as well, technological innovation drives a lot of my photographic creativity. Mm-hmm. So I like working with manufacturers, particularly the two areas that really interest me is optics underwater and lighting underwater. And so working with manufacturers who are developing new products, developing new optics, whether it's super macro lenses, whether it's wide angle lenses, those can drive me to, be able to shoot in different ways, or playing around with different lighting solutions, whether they're off camera, on camera. And a lot of my well-known or celebrated pictures have come from me getting my hands on new technology and thinking, right, this can create this type of shot, and then finding the subject that's going to really work with that look and that feel. So that drives it. And then the final area that I think I really want to mention is I'm a big student of the history of underwater photography. Back there, I've got 2 shelves of underwater photography books, which you can buy old underwater photography books for a couple of bucks from second-hand shops online. And throughout that, I love reading those old books and seeing some of the ideas people played around with in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And a lot of the time, they couldn't really get them to work brilliantly. But because they didn't have digital cameras and they could see how things work, and you can go back into find their ideas and then bring them back into underwater photography with a real polish that they just couldn't do at the time, create visually really, really interesting images.
That's a great idea.
So that's been another really rich area of inspiration for me. I have to say, I'm probably a bit less creative now than I was 5-6 years ago. I think it's perhaps the change of lifestyle, of having a kid, the nature of my trips being more, I think my focus now in my photography is to earn a living doing it. People talk about pros, and, for me, being a professional, as you guys I'm sure say, it's not about making money, it's about, the pro stands for pro for profit. It's about making profit. And so managing my life to make sure that what I'm doing is generating a profit, not just generating money to live on, has become slightly more. And I'm not as interested as playing around with those new ideas as I was a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just more because my focus has had to move into other areas.
Right.
I still try and do innovative stuff, but I think I spend a lot of time also just shooting really nice pictures that I know will earn me money.
Right. And which magazines and things are you working with at the moment? You still doing a lot of magazine work, or when you say shooting images for that sort of thing, are you doing projects outside of the main underwater photography media?
So, the answer to that question is anyone who pays well. Right. I think having a daughter made me aware of how time limited I am, and also the fact that it needs to provide for my family. So it actually made it easier for me to focus my work down to the things that actually pay and things that don't. And I think there's that balance between time spent and money in. Right. And so my photography is morphed into those areas. So I worked for a number of magazines. I don't really love writing. I enjoy seeing articles written, and I write lots of articles every year. But I find writing is much slower for me than taking pictures. Right. So I really like, my ideal situation would be to supply pictures to magazines but never write. But I for the last probably 10 years, I've written relatively few features, probably less than 10 a year, maybe less than 12 a year, I would say. But I write columns all the time. Right. So I write column in the UK and I write column in the US every month for the magazines. And columns I find very easy to write because I'm writing my opinion. So, like I've been spouting off here, I can't be wrong. It's my opinion.
Right.
So I just spout it off, and the column's done. And I know underwater photography well enough that I know that I'll be sharing lots of useful stuff. I may not have the definitive answer, but a column is kind of not supposed to be like a book. Needs to be definitive.
Yep.
A column is just, that's my take on it right now. And so I like writing that. It's also good because it's a regular income. Magazines, as you well know, Mike, they're very slow to pay. But if you're doing something for them every month, they're also paying you every month.
Right.
It may not be for that month,
right.
but it's money coming.
It'll eventually get there.
But really diverse. I mean, I still do pretty okay with stock sales. I wouldn't, I could live on it, but I couldn't travel and live on it. I think that's the big challenge. You used to be able to, live on it and travel and do all the photography as well. But my travel is predominantly running workshops. So I guess the way I run my business is I get my time in the field funded by running workshops. It limits my photography to some degree, but doesn't completely stop me shooting. It's probably why I don't do so much creative stuff now, because that requires you to be able to control a bit more.
Right.
Whereas
Time.
Shooting nice pictures, you go on a shark dive, or the group wants to shoot the sharks, you go off and take amazing pictures of sponges. It's not the most exciting thing, but then you can sell your sponges pictures or whatever it is. So so that way I get my time in the field. And then, but it's, on Friday I got an email from a hotel group who want to buy like abstract underwater pictures to use in like lots of hotel rooms. So that, sent their stuff off yesterday. I do a lot of magazine stuff. I sent articles off last week. Then just still images to magazines. Right. So the best magazines to work for me, for diving is the US magazines generally have the best rates still, followed by the German ones, and then some of the better European ones still pay, UK and things pay well. Beyond that, most people aren't paying, so you're not seeing. I would say if you don't see my stuff in their magazine, it's probably they're not paying.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and that's the right way.
Yeah.
No,
I mean there is lots of work going into that, and unfortunately, also to have respect also of your colleagues. Say that they do this as a full-time job. You always should ask to get paid for your work.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's also why I believe competition judges should be paid. If I was giving my time and my pictures away for free, the rest of the underwater photography community would be going, why are you doing that? Yet people are expected to put their time and name to competitions for free. And I think that's, I think if competitions are charging money to enter, they should be paying judges. For that same reason, one of the reasons. And I think we should all stand up for that together.
Well, I think we've probably taken up enough of your time by now. Why don't we leave with you with one, and we sort of touched on it earlier, but if you are entering, you're Joe Public out there, and you've got a whole selection of photos that you want to enter into a photo competition, whether it be nature photography, underwater photography, what have you. What would be your one recommendation, just one recommendation to a potential entrant, what they should be looking for in their own photos to throw in there if they could only just choose one?
Whoa. I think I can't enter it. I can't condense it down to a single one.
Right.
I think the first thing I'd say is have some fun with it. Competitions are very valuable to your career as an underwater photographer. There's no doubt about that. But if you take them too seriously, it can be very detrimental to both your well-being and your career, because you can become a real asshole, which is not what the underwater world needs. So take the photography seriously. Put your time into choosing the good pictures, but don't put too much pressure on the result. Judging panels are always going to choose weird stuff, different stuff, each time. And the different judges, I've judged with some really amazing photographers who have unbelievably awful taste in photography. The fact that a lot of competitions are chucking out huge numbers of images before the judges get to see them, means there's a lottery factor to it. So don't build the results up to be the be all and end all. Enjoy the successes. don't beat yourself up over the failures. I think that's the most important thing. In terms of entering your pictures that immediately grab your attention, some advice I would say is tile spread across the screen your favorite 20 pictures. Look at that screen, look away. Which are the ones that stick in your mind? Those are likely to grab the judge's attention quickly. If you're allowed to enter 10 pictures, have a deal with your husband or wife or friend that you can choose 5 and they can choose 5. And whoever's pictures do better in the competition from ones you've taken, they get to choose 1 more the next time and you get 1 less. So if your wife or husband does better than you in terms of entering your pictures in your 10, then they get to choose 6 the next time and you only get to choose 4.
I like that.
And I think
that's a good idea.
Because that disassociates yourself from the taking of it. People always enter too many pictures that were their most amazing moment underwater, but it's not their most amazing photo.
Right.
I do quite a lot of one-to-one coaching with people, and very rare, and I find again and again, we find on people's hard drives pictures that are competition winners that they were never considering entering. And, we get them out there, we send them off, and they sometimes do nothing, sometimes do well. If I had all the answers, though, I'd be winning every competition. So you just enjoy the successes when they come and don't take the defeats. It doesn't mean you're a bad photographer suddenly. It just means the judges are going in a different, looking for something different that way. And having been on judging panels, there are quite a lot of idiots out there. So.
I have a last question, and it's not it's not related to underwater photography competition. It's more related because you are one of the underwater photographers that decided to do this as a career. So you're a full-time underwater photographer. It's your profession. What would be your advice to give, let's say, to a young, motivated underwater photographer out there? How can he make it a career for himself or herself?
So I think the first thing I would say is that there's always room in the market. I think the thing that I was told, and I know Mike for a long time, I'm sure, he was told the same some things, it's not possible to do this as a job. And that isn't true. Now, if you are some, high-flying, person working in finance who does underwater photography as a hobby, if you think you can make underwater photography your career and earn the same money that you're earning, in finance or IT or whatever it is, that's not going to happen. But can you earn a good living? Yes, you can, but it's not going to happen on the day one. So you need to set out with a business plan that allows you to survive long enough to build the contacts. So spending money that you don't have is not a good thing. I think that expression. If you're a pro, you've got to operate in profit. So becoming a pro, you don't immediately go out and book all the trips you ever wanted to do, buy the best camera. You exist with the camera you've got. I spent the first 8 years of this career owning one camera body. I had one camera body, one housing. If I'd had a bad flood early on, I'd have probably been out of this game. But because I had one camera, I made sure I looked after it. I was super careful at the beginning of every dive. I checked it. Never had a flood. Survived long enough to keep going. So I think managing your expenditure is a really important thing. So you go and dive and shoot where someone will pay you or someone will host you to be able to do it. It means you may not go to the place you most wanted to go to, but if you can go there and survive long enough, it's why we all find our ways to get our diving and our travel for free. Whether it's cruise directoring, whether it's running workshops, those things allow us to offset those costs. Because if you're having to cover those costs as well, you'd then have much less money to live on and the rest of the time. So I think those aspects are really important. In terms of the photography, be yourself. There's always room in the photography world for someone who's bringing something new to the table. There's not room for someone who's just a clone of someone else. So if you look at a magazine and say, yeah, I've got shots as good as this, the magazines aren't interested in you because they've already got someone who can do that for them. And they know that person will deliver on time and be reliable and, send high quality pictures that aren't, look great on Facebook but don't look good at high res or whatever. But every magazine is desperate to discover the next new talent. And if you can do something that's different to what they've got already, and ideally different and better, there's always an open door. And all the magazines are actually far more excited about finding that person than they are about finding someone they already know, like us guys. So I would be very positive to people, but it doesn't happen, without some time. It doesn't happen without some careful financial management, and it doesn't come from without a lot of hard work. Because the reality is, the job we do doesn't pay a lot per unit of work. So the way you earn money is you do lots of units of work.
Yep.
And if you do lots of units of work, it all hooks together slowly.
Cool. That was
Sounds
a great
good.
advice.
Yep, exactly. A positive spin on it there, or a positive message to it.
Yeah, but I'm like, I have to say that I'm a very happy life. I really like my job. Yes, I'd love to be at home a bit more than I am sometimes, but it has worked out. I shouldn't underestimate that. The first couple of years I was doing this as a job, I had no money at all. And, even I used to dread the end of trips, where all the money I had in the world was going on gratuities and things like that. And just oh my God, I'm giving these dive guys money that I would I need that to live on for the day, but it was kind of, it doesn't work. And, at the end of my first year working as a pro, I had to sell my camera because I needed the money to live on. And I actually had 3 months without a camera. And I had to borrow a camera for one trip. I borrowed one for a review. I borrowed another one from a friend for a trip. Just because I knew I had money coming in, but it wasn't going to be paid for another 3 or 4 months. And I had to, I sold my camera and housing because I knew I'd also get more money for it then. So, we all, struggle to get going, but survive long enough, it does work out.
That's good. Good. All right. Well, thank you very much for chatting to us today. We,
no problem.
I think we just touched it. Really, we could talk to you for hours, but I'm sure you've got other things to do.
I think we can bring you back on the show again in the future for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm always happy to
chat.
Yeah, the other thing about being an underwater photographer, I spend most of my time in my house on my own. So the chance
Staring
to
at
talk
the
is
computer.
Always, deleting backscatter usually. That's what we do. For
we know that.
I'm a backscatter clicker. Click, 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 click. I'm either clicking backscatter or clicking my camera.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta teach her now that she's 3. She'll soon be able to do the backscatter removal for you.
Yeah, well, she because she's home all the time now. She really just always wants to be on my lap playing with the computer.
Yeah.
And so when we're doing Photoshop processing, I get her to type the numbers and stuff. So if I want to fade a layer or something to a certain percentage, I get her to type the numbers in. But then she gets bored.
What are the pictures that she likes the most?
Ones with pink in. So there was a photo. She was looking at my computer this morning. There was a picture of a girl. I changed. I do quite a lot of people photography underwater. I think it's not going to get you any likes on just normal diver shots. It's not going to get you any likes on social media or anything. But they're good commercial and they're valuable to have pictures because everyone's out there shooting marine life. Very few are shooting people. And I tend to travel with my spare mask and a girl's rash vest, a small one, which is kind of my wife's when she wants to use it. And for the last couple of years, last year or so, I changed this kind of travel kit about once a year. So for the last year, I've been using this kind of pink mask and pink rash vest. And then you can, get a member of dive staff, give them a mask, and boys and girls have worn this mask, give them a rash vest, and suddenly a dirty old dive guide's wetsuit is nice and bright and pink. They've got a nice, clean, wide mask. They look fine. Their reg's fine, their BCD's fine. They look pretty presentable. And you're only traveling with a small amount of extra stuff.
That's a very good idea.
So Isa really liked the picture of the pink. So there was a picture of the stingray with this girl wearing pink, which I actually took. I didn't take really for me. I took it as much for her, and she has it as her profile picture on social media. And I've never put the picture online. I mean, I think it's online on my stock. It's not. I wouldn't share it online. But Isa loves that because it's pink. But she's 3. She's a girl. She loves pink.
That's good.
All right. Great.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. It was great to have you here.
You're welcome, guys. Very nice to meet you both.
Talk to you next time.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
All right. And hang on a second. We are disappear here, but I think you can hear us. We go.
Where did we go? Where did we go?
I think is this thing is creating a little bit. We will be right there with you. Hang on. Getting the feeding. Did the camera die? That would be cool. All right, sorry, we had a little bit of. There we are. Mike, come back here to the seat. Hello, everyone. Good to see you guys. We had, of course, at the end of the interview, we had a little bit of a hiccups. And what a great interview, wasn't it, Mike?
It was a very good interview. A lot of good insight. Don't mind my audio interruption there. Fantastic insight. Competitions as well as underwater photography in general.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is we need to get Alex a nice Underwater Tribe t-shirt.
Yeah. I hope that is going to come over here to Bali
one of these days.
Yes, when everything is fixed. But definitely we should bring him back on the show because, I mean, was 1 hour of pure knowledge and I learned a lot from it. Definitely, 100%. And I think I will start to enter a little bit more photo competition.
That's good.
With a different strategy.
This is important.
Exactly.
I think we got a couple of questions that people were writing in the show, and I'm sure we'll get a few more that people will write when they watch the replay. We will pass those on to Alex as well. So even if you're not catching the live show, go ahead and write another comment or write a question in the comments. We will pass those along to Alex for him to answer.
And if you're tuning in just now, the replay will be on very shortly. Now we are pretty much at the end of it. And great. One thing that I noticed again, so we had both channels on YouTube and on Facebook. There was much more conversation going on the Facebook channel than the YouTube channel. And however, if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks a lot to Juhani. You had very good questions asking over there. It was very good insights, and I think I liked, that part about Alex also giving some, let's say, some tips, not only for underwater photography competitions, but also like if you want to make it a career, like there is still room for everyone. You need to be yourself, be original, try not to do the copycat. I think like if there is some takeaway from it, do maybe some copycat to learn those techniques out there, but then bring something from yourself into it. For instance, I bring a lot. All those funky color corrections that I do all the time in my video that you don't like so much.
I wouldn't vote on it.
I call it art. Right, guys. And please, if you enjoyed this show, we're going to bring you again in the future more guests. This is not just a one-time thing happening. We are always live on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on both YouTube and on Facebook. If you're following us on Facebook, please give us a like and maybe a subscribe also on YouTube, because we post, let's say, more show reels on YouTube and more tutorials.
Tutorials as well,
It's easier to actually see the tutorials in the playlist on YouTube channel than Facebook. And always we appreciate a little bit more to get a little bit of support.
What I did like today was actually there was a conversation between people talking about different things on the actual Facebook comments today. So a good engagement. Thanks for chatting.
Yes.
Susanna, Nick, Graham, everybody was sort of chatting a little bit about manipulation once that was brought up by Alex.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly is the word. Are you saying exactly, Frogfish?
I'm going to put a little name tag on that fish.
Right. And I wanted to say one more thing. During the week when we are not live like this, follow the conversation on Facebook. We ask you questions. We post every day 2-3 times on Facebook, and we really like to see the engagement coming out from that, and we really like to bring it up on the show to start on every time we start our live stream.
If you got a question for us itself, that's something we haven't brought up, but you want to bring it up, let us know as well, and we can, as long as it's within reason, bring it up on the show.
I think we are out of focus right now.
Oh, no.
Yes, because the camera did reset. So we are blurred, and we are supposed to be the professional photographers.
Artsy. Like I didn't have my glasses on.
Yeah. Guys, if you enjoyed this show, you can support the channel. We put a link in the description, and you can support us with a coffee or two. There are a few links over there, and we can take a small donation during these difficult times, of course, here in Bali without tourism at the moment. Thanks a lot for the people that already did support us. Thanks to Karen, Jane, and Nick that they support us after the last live stream. Thanks so much.
Yes.
And we are still making this work. It's quite fun.
It is.
Right? We're having good time coming up and see you all there. And we coming up with new ideas of what we can bring in the show.
Yep.
So sooner or later, we're going to get you dancing in here, Mike.
Yeah.
And start a
That's
TikTok
right.
account.
TikTok, we're going to be dancing in unison.
We are not on TikTok yet. Actually, yeah, there is an underwater tribe thing on TikTok, but we're not really there.
No.
We are on Twitter, LinkedIn.
You can handle the TikTok account.
Yes. Intense. All right, guys, that's all for today, and see you on the next one.
Yep. See you on Friday.
All right. See you guys. Bye-bye. We are still here.
What?
Bye.
Yeah, for some reason, that stupid camera.
We're still streaming, Mike. The stupid camera.
Yeah, I know.
Bloopers. Bloopers.
It doesn't
We're still here.
charge.
We're still here.
It's not charging.